2018 and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Southborough Planning Board is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. Reminder that persons who would like to listen to the meeting while in progress may do so by going online to https://www.southboroughtown, which is all one word, .com/remote meetings. So having said that, we will proceed to the first item on the agenda and ask the town planner to pick us up, get us updated from where we were at our last meeting and the reason for tonight's meeting.
Okay, so the reason for tonight's meeting is 2 weeks ago, I received an email from the town administrator, Mark Purple, asking, and I believe it was an email to department heads and managers, and he was asking for feedback from boards and committees as to whether they were on board with the Board of Selectmen's approach and the moderator's potential approach to make a motion at the town meeting to bundle a number of non-critical warrant articles, such as the bylaw change, the bylaw amendments, along with some others, and bundle those and push those to a potential fall town meeting. So when that happened, I reached out and first let Dawn know and then let everybody know that this was a question so that we could decide what we should do. And it's not an answer I could give Mark Purple directly because I'm not the planning board. So we scheduled this meeting tonight so that the planning board could discuss this potential approach that the moderator had potentially proposed at a Board of Selectmen's meeting just prior to Mark Purple's asking for this feedback, so that the planning board could discuss and determine if they were on board with a potential motion like that. And again, at the last meeting, I believe I talked about how the moderator, I had spoken with him, and I believe he's here in attendance as well, had a kind of a three-phase approach to the town meeting in order to promote public safety with a much shorter town meeting as opposed to a long drawn-out one during this pandemic. So the goal was, in order to shorten the amount of time the town meeting would take, that part one would be like a consent agenda with standard financial warrant articles that would usually pass very quickly. They're voted on and they're kind of like processed very quickly. Part two, phase two, would be a motion to bundle these non-critical warrant articles and ask to indefinitely postpone them to potentially the fall meeting. And then phase three would be the 7 or 8 warrant articles that were financial related that would require still some debate and deliberation at the town meeting. And that would be the lengthy part of the town meeting. So in order to kind of shrink the time frame for public safety, that was kind of the plan that I was explained. So the part we're involved in is the non-critical and warrant articles, and Mark Purple just wanted feedback to give to the Board of Selectmen that the planning board would be on board with that approach, that the moderator may make a motion to bundle the non-critical items into one motion, asking to indefinitely postpone them to town meeting. So
let's take, I see
then
that,
came town council advice.
but I see that Paul has raised his hand.
Okay.
Is it appropriate? Let's check in with him because things may have changed recently.
Sure. So I'm gonna allow Paul to talk, and here he is.
Oh, you have to unmute, yeah. Okay.
Okay, I don't know if I'm on camera or not, or whether you can hear me or not.
You are not on camera, but we can hear you loud and clear. Thanks.
Okay,
Mr.
so,
Moderator, welcome to the meeting.
hello, Mr. Chairman. So let me just clarify in a way that I think will make your task tonight much more simple. At one point, I did meet with the selectmen and talked about a potential approach to town meeting. It may or may not come off that way. The bundling of postponed articles is not really relevant to your discussion. The question Mr. Purple and I would like answered is, are you willing to have your articles put over to the fall? It's as simple as that. Whether as part of a bundle or one at a time. So, and in keeping in mind that your thinking in that regard is full and relevant, I think, to what town meeting may or may not do. It's ultimately not my choice or your choice whether that actually happens or not. Town meeting voters will decide which articles get indefinitely postponed. It's simply a matter of, are the sponsors in favor or not? And particularly if the sponsor of one or more articles is not in favor of indefinite postponement, that I think would be relevant to the town meeting voters to know. So that is why Mr. Purple, at my request, has reached out to ask all of the sponsors of the non-critical articles, including the planning board, what their view is on that. I should pause here for a second. I do want to address Chapter 48, Section 5. Because I think that a suggestion earlier that by avoiding a report, you could avoid it being taken up is not correct, and I can explain why. But that's a separate issue. So if there's any question about where I'm coming from on the postponement piece, I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have. But I think, as I said, I think your task is simply to discuss and come to a vote or a consensus or a recommendation as to whether you're willing to have your article postponed. Articles.
So thank you for that. Is the board ready to vote? Is there any discussion relative to our willingness to?
So,
go
I
ahead.
just had a quick question. Since the ZBA is the sponsor for their warrant article, would they need to, kind of give their consent as far as postponement?
Yes, you're right. We own, the planning board owns 2 of the 3 articles. Have we heard from the ZBA relative to this?
We have
Anybody?
No, but I
Well-
believe they were included in Mark Purple's email.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I think if our vote addresses all 3, we have authority over 2, but it's simply a recommendation. And if it's our recommendation to definitely postpone all 3, the ZBA can agree with that, remain silent, or disagree. But I don't think it hurts for us to give town administrator our opinion relative to all 3
Agreed.
and the postponement. But you're right, Sarah, that the ZBA does own one of these articles. Any other questions or comments?
I just want to say, Paul, that made it much clearer. It's, even though they do get, there may be potential to bundle them, that's really not relevant. It's whether the board agrees with it being indefinitely postponed, correct?
That's correct.
All right, thanks for making that much easier to understand.
Sure.
I would make a motion Mr. Chairman, that we as a planning board recommend that we indefinitely postpone our articles until the fall town meeting due to the current environment and the plan of the town to limit the town meeting as short as possible for July or June, sorry.
Second,
Motion's been made and seconded. Now, that would be Articles 28, 29, and 30?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, any discussion? Anyone from the, Jesse, did you want to go? No? Mimi?
I do.
Mrs. Luttrell?
So just for clarification, in my mind, I just thought it would be easier if those articles couldn't be taken up if there wasn't a report instead of indefinitely postponing, which is a negative connotation on the articles. But Mr. Moderator, you said that's not true, that they can
Well,
be taken up?
I was just reading, refreshing my memory with regard to section 5 of chapter 40A. The way the legislature writes these things is they're very, very, as you know, they're very, very dense. They're very wordy. You've got to really, really focus. The third paragraph of the online version, the fourth paragraph of the online version of section 5 starts with no vote to adopt any such proposed ordinance or bylaw or amendment thereto shall be taken until a report with recommendations by a planning board has been submitted to town meeting, city council, or, emphasize, or 21 days after said hearing has elapsed without submission of such a report. So town meeting could take this up if you report on it, or 21 days after you don't, is how I read that.
Right, 21 days after the hearing has elapsed. We haven't closed the hearings yet.
Okay, so then your point is to keep the hearing open until it's less than 21 days from town meeting, not to refuse to report on it. I was focused on the refusing to report piece. But if you're talking about just the time period of 21 days, that, yes, I understand your point.
I just want to also point out that indefinite postponement of an article is interpreted by the DHCD guidelines as case law in their reference that it's considered disapproval. So that if it gets indefinitely postponed, could it be interpreted as a disapproval? And if the planning board doesn't provide a report to town meeting, a disapproved warrant article without planning board report supporting it cannot come back for 2 years. You see what I'm saying? So.
Yeah, but I thought if it was, we had like 6 months to bring it back.
Well,
Understanding from what Aldo's letter said.
yes, if. Hold
Which
on,
was the
I have it right here.
So that's why I'm wondering if it would be cleaner to just
This is what it
not
says.
file a
Maybe-
report and it couldn't be voted on.
Again,
Yeah,
I think from what Paul was saying, though, we're getting stuck on the semantics. The question Paul has is, are we in favor of recommending that we postpone this, and how we do that? We can still figure out later, but they just want to know, would we be in favor of trying to postpone it to speed up town meeting? Is that right, Paul?
That's essentially it, Andrew. And I will say that there are a couple, whether we do that via a motion to indefinitely postpone or some other way is, still to be determined. I'm taking some advice from a lot of people on this because the intention is all simply convenience. I understand that typically in a non-pandemic town meeting, if you indefinitely postpone an article, it's because you are not wanting to adopt it. In this case, we're trying to effect a delay merely for convenience as relates to the pandemic. So I'm getting some advice about how to do that without putting things in jeopardy as a result of the actual action. And there's more to come on that.
So Paul, would a straw vote just work? I can withdraw my motion and we can just say, go around.
It's
know-
it's a good question and the answer is no. That much I can tell you for certainty that once an article appears on the warrant, it must be acted upon. It cannot be pulled.
No, I'm saying for what you want tonight. If you could, we just do a straw vote and you figure out, okay, who's in favor and who's not of postponing?
Yeah, however you guys want to do, however you want to do, whatever you want to do. I don't want to suggest how to indicate your preference if you have one.
So in that case,
would-
then
All
maybe it'd
we're
be
looking
easier-
for is a preference because it is, you know, after all, it's only advisory anyway. Town meeting can do what they want. It's just a matter of whether the article sponsor is okay with it. I think a lot of people, when you ask them to postpone something, will be curious what the sponsor thinks. And that's the only reason for the question.
I think there's, I think that the motion should be voted on. It's a recommendation.
Okay.
So Mr. Chairman, I mean, my one question is, can we remove the language indefinite postponement from the motion? Because we're really not indefinitely postponing. We're agreeing with the plan to delay the hearing of these at town meeting until the fall. To me, that's not the same thing as indefinite postponement.
It's fine. I think that's okay.
Okay, what do you have for a motion then?
Can I just point out one thing though, at the town administrator's email, I believe it specifically asked about, included the term indefinitely postponed. Now, to Jesse's point, you know, I tend to agree to keep it generic because indefinite postponement, even though, you know, Paul indicates that that's not the full intent of the approach here that's happening. The intent is to push the articles forward to a next town meeting. But the term indefinitely postponed has a specific meaning according to the documents that I've been reading and the interpretation of Chapter 40A, Section 5. So I just want to point that so it's very clear. The feedback was asked about indefinitely postponing, but that has ramifications if you specifically say that. So
So
it
if
would
I-
be good to keep it generic.
This is Paul. I think that's a fine suggestion, and I can tell you, Mr. Purple wrote his email at my request, and I didn't tell him how to word it. And
Okay,
I'm telling you guys tonight, just indicate it however generically you'd like. It's fine.
okay.
I'd like to amend my motion that the planning board recommend to postpone until the fall town meeting, the 3 warrant articles. Which ones were they again? Sarah,
28,
29
29.
and 30.
28, 29, and 30 to the fall town meeting, per the request of the town to expedite town meeting so we can get to the financial items within June.
I second the amended motion.
So the verb was postpone.
Got it.
Is that what we want? Is there any other, motions been made and seconded? Any other discussion from the board? Because I want to keep it open to the public for any questions or comments regarding the motion. Any other questions or comments from the board?
Chairman Marty Houlihan has a comment. I still don't like the word postpone, so I would just say to delay or defer. But I don't want any interpretation of indefinite postponement in any way, shape, or form.
Can I just say that I think the key here is making sure that the article can come up again in the fall. And so if I'm advised down, tomorrow or next week that indefinite postponement is the best way to do that, that's what I'll ask town meeting to do. But so I agree with Ms. Houlihan. You don't have to specify any particular verb or mechanism. You can keep it generic. It's not to omit any possibility. It's just to embrace any possibility, I guess is how I would think of it. Hopefully I'm not making it sound more complicated than it is.
Want to change the verb to embrace?
Oh, I'm suggesting that defer, delay, you're willing to, defer is probably a good word, to the fall. However, whatever mechanism we may need to do that is not really relevant to this discussion, in my opinion. It's just a matter of your willingness to have it come in the fall instead of next month. However we do it, without jeopardizing the article's existence.
So defer without jeopardizing the articles.
I'm good with that.
You got that, Kate?
Got it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any more discussion from the board? Any discussion from the public? Questions or comments? So if someone is watching and on Zoom, or would they be watching it on YouTube also?
They could be watching either location.
And if they wanted to say something, how would they do that?
So if they wanted to say something, they would have to log in via Zoom and be an attendee. So right now we have 2 attendees, Paul and Sam Stivers. And so if they wanted to say something, they would raise their hand, which we can see in the window that shows who's in the room. And then we would just allow them to talk as we did with Paul.
Okay, thank you. I want to make sure that if someone was watching and they'd be like me and not know how to do it, we could tell them, and which we just did.
Yep.
So motion's been made and seconded. No more discussion. All in favor? Morris, yes.
Mills, yes.
Stein, yes.
Latrell, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
Thank you. Move on to the next item on the agenda, which I think is the minutes or the planners report.
Thank you, Paul Semino, for your
You're
help.
welcome. I'm going to bow out, guys, but Don, you can shoot me a text or something if you need me to get back on.
Okay, Paul, thanks a million.
Thanks, Paul. It's always great to have you back at a planning board meeting.
Thanks. See you guys.
Yeah.
Still got the planning board blood in him, doesn't he? Karina. You're
Okay. For the planners report, just have a couple of things. The Master Plan Committee has a survey out for feedback for the master plan update. And I don't know, Sarah, are you able to share a screen with the,
I can. Yep. Let me just
we have a flyer that Sarah prepared that will let the public know where they can find how to access this survey. So the survey will close May 22nd. So we're hoping to get as much feedback and as many people filling out that survey so that the Master Plan Committee and the MAPC can continue working on the master plan update. And this public outreach information, the feedback on this will be really important because it covers a lot of areas and it helps many of the topics that the master plan committee is discussing. And they're moving along quite well. So Sarah's just gonna try and find that flyer and post
Pulling
it.
it up right here. And let me just get back over to here.
Again, for the people listening and the public, that survey is relatively quick and it'll close on May 22nd. You can find it on the master plan committee website. There's a link to it there. And right here on the screen, you can see it's at
So
the
this
link
is
will,
the
yeah.
survey link here. I think if I click on it, it'll take me there. So there's the survey link. Take you straight to it. And it is posted on the master plan committee website, and it's also posted on the planning board website and the front page of the town's website. So it's posted in 3 different locations on the town's website. So hopefully people will be able to find it.
And that's the start page of the survey, right,
This is
Sarah?
the start page of the survey. Yep, because it's a live link from the actual flyer.
Yeah, there you go. And Sarah created that flyer, I believe.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, very good. Great job.
All right.
Okay, so people can view that in the video recap of the recording of this,
Yeah.
or they can find it on the town website.
Mhm.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yep.
The other thing I want to point out is that we've been informed that we're still working remotely until May 26th. So the townhouse is still closed. Townhouse staff and other like Corderville Hall, they're all working remotely too. And then there'll be a start to a phased returning to normal. There's 4 phases that the governor put out, and the town is following those and has posted those phases on the town website. You can find that if you go to the main page. That's good news. Things are getting better and we're heading in the right direction, and that will help a lot of us. I foresee that when we start to go back, like Sarah and I will kind of rotate the schedule, 1 day in, 1 day off, until then the town loosens that criteria as well, so that we can get back to just regular full-time in the office and in the field and all that, because there's a lot of construction coming up that needs our help. Okay, another item is the planning board usually appoints or recommends to the Board of Selectmen to appoint a Metro West Regional Collaborative representative from the planning board. And Mimi has been that person, but her term expires June 30th. So I don't know if Mimi is still interested in continuing that role. And if so, then at the June 8th meeting, perhaps the planning board can vote to recommend that the Board of Selectmen reappoint her.
If anyone else is interested, I would refer to them. They have had meetings when I'm working, so I've had a hard time attending their meetings. But I'd be happy to continue if no one else wants to do it.
Well, let's
Okay,
put
you're
that on
breaking
the
up a little.
agenda.
Okay,
I just have one quick question. So, with regard to that position, is it something that you could, if that's the case, Mimi, that you've had challenges to get to those meetings, can they have a co-appointees? So if one can't go, another could go? Because I would offer to also be a part of it.
I don't know I think that anyone can go. I don't know if the planning board can appoint
Two, right?
2.
Well, we would appoint 1 and then there'd be an alternate.
That works for me.
Let's put that on the agenda, Karina.
okay,
June
will
8th.
do. Second, the next item is for open space inspections. I've contacted a consultant who's experienced in doing this. in hoping to perform 1 or 2 inspections this year with a little bit of funding we retained in order to keep the program active. I'll be updating the planning board at the next meeting regarding that. And I've been in contact with Open Space Preservation Commission's chair, Freddie Gillespie, and we're going to be coordinating on 1 or 2 locations that are agreed to be two good locations to do inspections on this fiscal year.
Can I just, Sarah, are we overlapping into someone else's time on this?
We are not, but we have about 10 minutes.
Okay, go ahead, Karina.
Yep, last thing. No, I guess that was the last thing. We can go to meeting minutes.
Next item
That's
on the
it.
agenda is meeting minutes, Mr. Mills.
I make a motion, we approve the meeting minutes from, what day was it?
May 7th.
From May 7th, as written.
Second,
Motion's been made and seconded. Any questions, comments on the minutes? Usually isn't, because Kate's doing them right.
Yes,
every
she
time.
is.
Thank you.
Seeing none, all in favor, Morris, yes.
Mills, yes.
Stein, yes.
Latrell, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
Very good, thank you. Next item on the agenda.
Motion
Next
to adjourn.
meeting.
Next meeting is June 8th at
7
7 o'clock.
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Just one quick thing for next meeting, appointments for the master plan committee need to be made then too, because there are a lot of June 30th expirations on that.
That's correct. Master Plan Committee and also Planning Board Representative to Shopsy, which is currently Jesse.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Oh, did I already take that vote? Morris to adjourn. Morris, yes.
Mills, yes.
Stein, yes.
Latrell, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
We're adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
everybody.
All righty.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Just in time.
That's right.